Hello and welcome back. We continue our Windows installation, and today in this video we are going to try installing Windows Millennium on a real modern PC. Are you ready? Let's go. We have Intel i9 4900K, ASUS Z790H motherboard, NVIDIA RTX 4070, 32GB of DDR5 memory, and PCI Express 4.0 NVMe SSD with 2TB of capacity. So what is Windows Millennium? It's a Microsoft operating system from the 9th series that replaced Windows 38, and it was released on September 14, 2000. So that's already 25 years ago. Is it possible to install it on a modern PC? Let's find out. To begin, we will need the Windows Millennium image. I found it, and if you don't want to search for it yourself, you can find it on my Patreon page, where we'll share all the links, detailed instructions, and all necessary files. All links will be in the description. Since Windows Millennium is part of the 9X series, meaning it's DOS-based, the simplest way to run it is just like with Windows 35 and Windows 38, by writing the image to a flash drive. That's what I will do now. Then we go to the boot menu on the modern PC and select our flash drive, and the Windows Millennium installation menu appears. Let's try to start the installation, but as you can see, it just shows a message saying press Ctrl-Alt-Delete to reboot, and we can't do anything. Even if you choose the command line, it just shows that message and nothing works. It's strange because in the previous videos with Windows 35 and Windows 38 we didn't have this issue. So I decided to get creative and install Windows Millennium on a virtual machine, and then use Win Converter to turn that virtual machine into a regular image that we can write to an SSD using Balena Etcher. Then we connect that SSD to the modern PC, boot it up, and we get a Vcache error. But we have encountered this before with Windows 35 and Windows 38, and luckily we can fix it with a special patch called correctfix. There are two versions of this patch, correctfix.sys and correctfix.vxd, and it's best to use the VXD version. We copy the patch into the system folder of Windows Millennium and add a line to the system.ini file. Once we do that, we reboot, and voila! Windows Millennium boots on the modern PC without issues, and we don't even get the video card error that we had before. However, we get some problems. We don't have USB or chipset drivers, and there is no PS2 port, so we can't use any mouse or keyboard. That's disappointing because the system boots, but we can't interact with it. So that's all? This is the end? Of course not. Because if you watched the previous video about installing Windows 38 on the same PC, you will remember that I specifically bought a motherboard that supports 4900K and has PS2 ports, and everything worked perfectly there. We could control the keyboard and mouse. At the same time, I thought I wouldn't need it anymore, so I sold it. But it turned out I need it again, this time for running Windows Millennium. And thanks to the contributions you sent me on Patreon, I was able to purchase it. That's how it looks, and then we install our 4900K on it. Of course, I also had to buy a cheap cooler, because I'm too lazy to keep swapping liquid cooling between computers. And Windows Millennium booted without any issues. I could control the mouse and keyboard. And I even recorded a whole separate video, tried running some old games, etc. I was about to release the final video featuring this motherboard, but the idea of running Windows Millennium on Z790 motherboard still lingered in my mind, so I decided to dig deeper. I stumbled upon a similar YouTube channel called Amoris, and as you can see, the author managed to run Windows 38 and also Windows Millennium on Z790 motherboard. In fact, it also had PS2 ports, and what I saw there shocked me, because somehow on this modern motherboard, Windows 98 and Millennium managed to recognize old PCI devices, connected via PCI Express to PCI adapter. As you may remember from old videos about installing Windows 35 and Windows 38, I specifically ordered this adapter, but the system never recognized it. In the end, it turned out that I made a huge mistake. The mistake is that when installing Windows 35, Windows 38 and Windows Millennium, if you don't specify these particular parameters, then even if the installation completed successfully and you manage to boot the system on a modern computer, the device manager won't show any devices connected to PCI Express slot. Because of this, no network card, No PCI Express USB 3.0 or 2.0 card, PCI Express to PCI adapter with USB 2.0 board, or any other devices I tried to connect in those old videos would work, simply because they wouldn't appear in Device Manager. So next I rerun Windows Millennium installation on a virtual machine, this time including those /pi parameters, completed the installation, applied the patch and crack fix, and now I'm trying to boot on ASUS H610M motherboard with 14900K. And guess what? You won't believe it, but PCI Express to PCI adapter is recognized. USB 2.0 board connected to it is recognized, and all the USB devices connected to it, keyboard, mouse, and so forth, are recognized as well. This means we can even connect an old PCI network card or PCI sound card, and in simple terms, Windows Millennium will work perfectly. And if we even connect an old graphics card, we can run old games. Then one thought suddenly strikes me. If the drivers for that adapter are already installed on this motherboard, then if I remove my SSD with Windows Millennium installed and its drivers and connect it to my Z790 motherboard, which doesn't have PS2 ports, it should all work fine, meaning the keyboard and mouse should function. I did all that, but guess what? It didn't work. The problem is that when you first boot up, you get a window prompting you to install those adapter drivers again. This happens because we connected Windows Millennium to different hardware. Each piece of hardware has its own code, and if it worked on ASUS H610 motherboard, then Windows Millennium assigned a specific code to that device. But when you move to another motherboard, the drivers need to be reinstalled. The problem is that we can't click the install button because the keyboard and mouse don't work, and we don't have PS2 ports. It seemed like we were close to success, but then I started exploring different options. Maybe a script to click that button, or a command, or using a remote control tool like TeamViewer, or admin to manage the device from another computer. But it turns out there is no way to click that button. No scripts, no commands, and remote access won't work because there are no drivers online. So that's all? This is the end? Of course not. Then an idea came to me. Windows Millennium has two installation stages. The first stage, copy as files, and the second stage, install the devices. As far as I remember from previous installations, the device setup happens automatically without needing to click anything. So I decided to create a Windows Millennium image that ends at the second stage of installation. That way I can simply write it to my SSD, boot it on the modern PC, and the device installation will start automatically. Of course, we must include those same parameters, /pi, so that the PCI Express devices are recognized. And then they complete the Windows Millennium installation up to the second stage. Then shut down the virtual machine. Next, I use a tool like Starwin Converter to turn the virtual machine into a standard image for the SSD, and then write it using Balineator. After that, I connected my SSD to the modern PC, selected in the boot menu, and the second stage of installation begins. Naturally, the PCI Express to PCI adapter is connected, along with the mouse and keyboard. And friends, something incredible happens. And oh my god, holy shit, Jesus Christ, it worked! Somehow, but it worked. My mouse and my keyboard are working well. Somehow, on the second stage of Windows Millennium installation, the setup automatically configured the connected devices, specifically the PCI Express to PCI adapter. I even asked ChatGPT if it was possible, and it told me there is a 99% chance it's impossible. We can say with confidence that installing Windows Millennium on a modern PC is possible, even without a PS2 port. This is incredible. Okay, let's continue the installation. Type your name, next, accept the agreement. Okay, we almost got into the system. Enter your name, and we did it. I still can't believe it, that it's possible. Thanks to Express to PCI adapter, we can connect here old PCI devices, such as an old 2.0 controller, an old sound card, an old network card, We can even install drivers for an old NVIDIA graphics card. In simple terms, we can fully use Windows Millennium on a modern PC. To make Windows Millennium work to its full potential, we need to connect all PCI components, such as network card, sound card, and USB controller, which is already connected via the PCI Express to PCI adapter. Thanks to support on Patreon, I was able to buy that motherboard with PS2 port, as well as all the necessary legacy components. Of course, all these components must support Windows 9X. Now let's connect them to the adapter and install all the drivers. I will use an old NVIDIA 6800GS graphics card. The drivers were successfully installed. Let's check system properties. And as you can see, we have Intel i9 4900K and only 2GB of RAM. By the way, I have 32GB of DDR5 memory installed on my modern PC. Anyway, it's amazing that the memory was detected without any issues, because I didn't use the 4GB memory support patch by Rudolf R. Lowe. Okay, let's go ahead, let's check device manager. Of course, we have a lot of devices without drivers because of the lack of chipset drivers, but our old GPU is working properly. We can change resolution, settings, etc. Also, we have 100 megabits network adapter, which is working well too. We have a sound, and most importantly, we have a working USB controller, so we can connect a modern keyboard or a mouse. Let's go ahead, let's open an old CPU version. And we have only one core and one thread and 3200 MHz. By the way, now my Intel i9 4900K is overclocked and has 6 GHz of frequency. Here is my motherboard, ASUS Z790H gaming Wi-Fi, but our DDR5 memory is not recognized correctly. Here as you can see, we have also a benchmark. Let's bench our CPU, comparing to an old CPUs. And we are getting some insanely high scores. Since our network card is working properly, we'll be able to access the internet. Let's do it. Unfortunately, you won't be able to do it using a standard Windows Millennium browser. That's why I downloaded RetroZilla. This browser will allow us to visit certain websites. Let's try to do it. Let's try to access Google, and it's working. Let's try to find something. And unfortunately, it doesn't work. Maybe we should try to access some old site. This one, for example, and as you can see, it's working well. We even can download files. Amazing. What about Microsoft? And it works too. What? With some issues, but it works. Oh my god. Just imagine surfing the web on a 25-year-old OS. And yes, it's still possible after all these years. Just look at this. It's possible. Let's try to open YouTube. Unfortunately, the browser is too old. Let's go next. Let's check the speed of our SSD. I will use an old Crystal Disk Mark app. Let's see what happens. The speed should be higher, so it seems the program is displaying them incorrectly. By the way, Rudolf R. Lowe also has a page for HCI, I mean the SATA drivers. To install it, you need to select one of the PCI devices. In Device Manager, select the driver path, and it will install automatically. All links to patches, tutorials, old programs, and even a ready-made image with Windows Millennium installed and all the patches applied can be found on my Patreon page. You will be able to flash the ready image with the applied patches onto your SSD and run Windows Millennium on your modern PC. All links will be in the description. Now let's test old games. Will they work properly? Let's find out. Let's test one of the greatest classic games, Quake 3 Arena. Will it work? By the way, that sound is a reversed version of mounts from an adult film. And this hard mode is one of the most difficult I've ever encountered in games.
Welcome to Quake 3 Arena. Welcome to Quake 3 Arena.
Under this nickname and with this character, I used to play Quake 3.
Crashed. You have taken the lead. Crash wins.
Great old memories. Of course, I was trying to play multiplayer mode, but for some unknown reason it doesn't work. Internet connection is fine, maybe I just should use a different version. It was news to me, but there is a version of Half-Life 2 or Windows Millennium. This 2187 version. Will it run? Looks like yes. But unfortunately no. Something's wrong. Maybe the problem is with GPU or its driver. By the way, Rudolph Arlo also has a Windows Millennium patch, Folder 67 series graphics cards, with 512 MB. But even with this patch, the game still crashes. My capture card can't handle low resolutions, so I will be recording everything with a camera. And look how beautiful Windows Millennium looks on a modern 2K monitor. Let's go ahead and let's play Will Rock. Another cool game.
The civilization of the ancient Greeks once reigned supreme. Its gods ruled the universe from atop Mount Olympus, and the world below flourished under their protection. But nothing lasts forever.
Go next. Let's try to run Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Amazing, even buttons have sound.
Welcome to Tatooine, Padres fans. We have perfect weather today for the Bunta Classic.
And a big turnout here from all corners of the Outer Rim territories. I see the contestants are making their way out onto the starting grid.
There he is, the reigning champion of the Bunta Classic and the crowd favorite, Suba.
A cinematic trailer before the game starts. I like it. There is definitely something special about 19th games. What about this game? It conveys a real sense of speed. If you've driven a car and played this game, you will know what I mean. By the way, the sequel to this game is coming out in 2026. I think with modern graphics, it's going to be awesome. Go next, let's try to play Blood. Another great game. And looks like we don't have a sound. To solve this problem, we can use an old version of DOSBox. Yes, there is a version of DOSBox for Windows Millennium. All we need is to type these commands, and it's working properly. This game has a unique atmosphere, a lot of secrets, amazing gameplay. Using only one dynamite, you can blow them all. And it has a huge number of references to classic movies. For example, this reference is the reference to film Raven. You could even say that the old movies are a reference to this game. What can we say in conclusion? If someone had asked me whether it's possible to install Windows Millennium on a modern PC with this CPU and this motherboard and without PS2 ports, I would have confidently said 120% that it's impossible. But thanks to Rudolph Arlo, it turned out to be possible, even in 2026. On a nearly top-tier modern PC, 26 years later. We can only say that it's truly amazing. If you enjoyed this video, press the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. See you later, bye.